Donald Trump's press secretary caused a stock market crash after acknowledging that the president will be implementing a 25% tariff on Canada, Mexico, and a 10% tariff on China. This is going to absolutely wreck the economy if he does this. He's meant to do it tomorrow. I'm going to go through what this means for us, more of what Donald Trump plans to do, and what the effects of it are going to be. So here's his press secretary dropping the bomb.
Hey, friends at Reuters are reporting that the president has made a decision on the Canada and Mexico tariffs, but that they won't actually be implemented until March 1st. I was wondering if you could confirm that and talk through some of the president's thinking.
I saw that report and it is false. I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
I mean, she's not wrong there. This is what the American people voted for. Not everyone, but a majority, not even a majority, a plurality of the American people wanted this. 49.9% of the voters voted for Donald Trump, and they might not understand what a tariff is when they voted, but they are now going to understand what it is tomorrow. And here is where the S&P 500 is, which is a collection of the 500 most successful stocks in the country, was doing quite well. And then when this news dropped, it absolutely tanked. And now the stock market is in free fall from this news. The reason why is because it's going to be it's just going to be a tax on the American people. Businesses are going to have less production, and people are going to buy less because it's going to cost more. Here's here's his press secretary when asked, here's what she said when asked if prices are going to go up.
Yes. Sure.
Thanks, Karoline. Can you guarantee that those tariffs won't increase prices for Americans, including at the gas pump and the grocery store?
I think Americans who are concerned about increased prices should look at what President Trump did in his first term. He effectively implemented.
Let's look at what Donald Trump did in his first term, because I think that is a great suggestion, Karoline. So here's what he did. Donald Trump in his first term, this is after he mishandled COVID, the S&P, which I just showed you, plummeted nearly 10%, registering its single worst day performance in more than 3 decades. The following month, the unemployment skyrocketed to almost 15%. And then Donald Trump spent a shit ton of money, $2.2 trillion in a stimulus package, and that did give $1,200 payments to people, but it also was one of the biggest cash grabs, one of the biggest cash grabs in American history, with the PPP loans, where people who did not need money took money because it wasn't being properly vetted. And then it was all forgiven. And then also when Joe Biden took over, the unemployment rate was at 6.7%. So it still recovered a little bit, but the economy was not doing hot. So the S&P fell when he left office, and now he's getting into office, and it's doing the same thing. Well, no surprise there. Here's Donald Trump being reminded he was brought on to reduce costs, and he is going to be raising them. Look at how he responds.
You promised Americans to try to reduce costs, and so many of the products that would be tariffed when they come into the country, the outgoing country is not paying the tariff. The buyers in the United States pay that, and then that's passed on to consumers in most instances.
Sometimes.
How would you expect to have prices come down if you have such a broad plan for tariffs? And what do you say to the voters who want to see you reduce everyday costs?
Well, let me just tell you that I got elected for a lot of reasons. Number one was the border. Number two was inflation, because I had almost no inflation. And yet I charged hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs to countries. And think of it, I had almost no inflation and took in $600 billion of money from other countries. And tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success. They cause big success. So we're going to have great success. There could be some temporary short-term disruption, and people will understand that. I had that when I negotiated some of the good deals for
All right, so a lot of bloviating there and a lot of lying, but he did tell the truth at the end there, where he said there could be some temporary short-term disruption, and I think that's probably a very simple way of looking at it. And just so you know, someone posted this today where the eggs at a store were $23. Now, of course, this is an outlier, but it's also a sign of things to come, where prices are going to go up. He is mismanaging the bird flu epidemic, and prices are going up for eggs, and they're not even acknowledging it. Here is someone talking about the tariffs. The executive chairwoman of Canada's auto parts maker, Linamar, said that the 25% tariffs President Trump intends to impose tomorrow on exports from Canada and Mexico could shut down North American auto production within a week. Let me just say that again. The thing he's enacting tomorrow could shut down North American auto production within a week. Quote, nobody can absorb this kind of cost, not the automakers, not the suppliers, not the consumers. She says demand will collapse and vehicle production will grind to a halt, putting millions of workers out of work, the vast majority of which are in the U.S. Short-term disruption is what he called it. Here's Axios saying Trump's tariffs will cost U.S. households $830 a year. The man who was brought on to lower the cost of goods is about to raise them. Why it matters. Economists fear the tariffs will be a net negative for households and the broader economy. This is why the stock market collapsed. By the numbers, the foundation estimated Friday that Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, as well as 10% tariffs on China, would shrink the economic output of the U.S. by 0.4%. That might not sound like a lot. That's a lot when you're talking about trillions of dollars, and increase taxes by $1.2 trillion between 2025 and 2034. That's on top of recent data showing that tariffs could threaten Americans' economic gains of recent years. In other words, everything Joe Biden did to recover us from Donald Trump's losses will be wiped away. Donald Trump is hell-bent on making sure this country fails. Here's Donald Trump also saying he's not done with just raising the price of goods. He wants to raise the price of pharmaceuticals.
In addition to that, and you see the power of the tariff. I mean, the tariff is good, and nobody can compete with us because we have by far the biggest piggy bank. And so that'll take place very quickly. But also we'll be doing pharmaceuticals. And to bring our industry back, we want to bring pharmaceuticals back to the country. And the way you bring it back to the country is by putting up a wall, and the wall is a tariff wall.
Oh my God, he's such an idiot. By the way, what he's doing here with Mexico, Canada, with Colombia, like the reason why we can essentially bully these countries is because we are powerful and they do have nowhere to go because we are their ally. We're not supposed to bully them. So that's why they're putting up with it right now. But what do you think Colombia is going to do if China's like, hey, guess what? We can invest in your country. Just let us put up a couple of military bases. Do you think Colombia, who's being treated like a piece of shit from this know-nothing president, is going to reconsider that offer maybe the next time? That's the danger he's putting us in. It's like anything, like a personal relationship. You can only push someone around so much before they're like, screw this guy, I'm hanging out with someone else. That's what he's doing. And by the way, he also overturned Biden's effort to lower drug costs, imposing a $2 monthly out-of-pocket cap on generic drugs. Now, when he signed this executive order, I just want to let you know, it did not impact the $35 monthly cap on insulin. So he is just doing everything he can to raise prices, and he's also going to raise the cost of gas.
Tomorrow's tariffs include oil.
What?
Will tomorrow's tariffs be inclusive of Canadian crude?
I'm probably going to reduce the tariff a little bit on that. We think we're going to bring it down to 10% on the oil. So it's 25% on the Canada side.
Mr. President, are these tariffs?
And then one more time, he's also going to absolutely impose a tariff on the EU. Now, if China and Mexico are getting it because of fentanyl, which by the way is not necessarily true, and I'm not sure how much Mexico and Canada can do to stop the importing of fentanyl. And I'm sure we also export lots of bad drugs as well. But here, I don't know what he's doing the EU tariff for, if for drugs.
Impose tariff on the European Union.
What does that mean?
Are you going to impose tariff too on the European Union like you are going to do for Mexico and Canada?
Well, you're asking me a question because I'm sure you didn't hear. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Do you want the truthful answer, or should I give you a political answer? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tariffs
The European Union has treated us so terribly.
You promised.
Oh my God. So this is what happens when we elect a dictator wannabe. They use whatever power they have to impose pressure on people and countries who don't deserve it. And we all suffer the consequences. And the people who voted for this probably won't even realize that it's happening to them, because what he's going to do is make a propaganda machine and say it's DEI, it's Mexico, it's Canada that's raising the prices, not Donald Trump. But that's why this channel exists. That's why we have to make sure that we spread the truth, because this is all going to be his fault if he goes through with it.